What exactly is motivating these foreign fighters, and is radicalisation bigger in the US or Europe? With me in the studio is Sir Iqbal Sakrani, former founding Secretary General of the Muslim Council of Britain, and via webcam, Professor Akbar Ahmed Ibn Khaldun, Chair of Islamic Studies at American University in Washington. Thank you both for joining us here on the programme. Sir Sakrani, I'd like to begin by asking you this question that keeps being raised. Why and how are these young men and women being radicalised?
Well, I think the certain information is well documented over the years. The subject matter of poverty, unemployment are one of the key factors that have come in. But at the same time, the whole issue of the national foreign policies that have been been seen over the number of years, which has been an important factor where the young people feel somehow seen of the involvement of the foreign forces in the Muslim lands. But at the same time, we have got the issue of the way the community overall has been projected. And sadly, since there have been many instances in the last few months, we have seen the way the media projects, the way the politicians project generally the Muslim community and the demonization of Islam.
But we're looking, the numbers that we're looking at are in the thousands from Europe, quite different to the numbers who are going from America.
Well, I think you're right. The numbers have been growing. Situation hasn't been getting any better. I think if only the people who were involved in the crimes in France and in Sweden or in Denmark, if they were caught and we had the trial process going through, then perhaps we would have known even better as to what motivated them in carrying out those evil and atrocious acts. So it's somehow the number of factors that are coming in, there has to be a better understanding. There's no clear-cut answer in terms of what is causing the radicalization, but certainly I think the issues of discrimination, prejudice, unemployment, poverty, all these are clear factors that has come in. And of course, we should not also forget the statements made by key people from the intelligence side, where the role of internet has been another major influence, where the young people tend to look at this and read through the information, which somehow does not clearly project the Islamic viewpoint.
Professor Ahmed, would you agree that part of it is this discrimination against young Muslim men and women, the feeling of being ostracized that's pushing them to go out and join groups like ISIS?
Yes, Yelda, this is a very complicated issue and I've been studying it for decades now. I would call it the push and pull theory. You have a certain pull that is pulled from the Middle East, the attraction of having an Islamic state and so on, however perverted and distorted that may be in practice. And then you have a certain push, the failure of integration or assimilation in the West of the third generation of Muslim immigrants. You're seeing this happening in all the countries in Europe, tragically. And the fact that these combine the push and pull to force the third generation of immigrants to really say, I don't belong here, perhaps I belong over there, and going off to try their luck there and finding that the reality is very different from what they had imagined, and very often being disillusioned and coming back having lost really both their worlds.
But there's a difference, isn't there, in the number of young people going from America, for example, and the thousands that we're seeing that are going from Europe. Why is that?
Yes, now you've raised a very different question, Yelda. Look, take a look at the origins of the two communities, Muslims in the US, Muslims in Europe. In the US, they come mainly as middle-class professionals, English-speaking, doctors, engineers. They come in to participate and be part of the American dream. In Europe, they come really to be workers in factories, in industries, in Manchester, Birmingham, and so on. And their aim is eventually to make some money and go back home. Very different backgrounds. Secondly, they're coming from different countries. In Europe, they're coming from former colonies. So the Algerians will come to France. South Asians will come to the UK. In the US, it is global. So people are there by choice. They're coming from all over the world. Muslims from every kind of background coming there to become citizens and very quickly becoming citizens. If 9/11 had not happened in the US, the Muslims in the US would not really have faced any kind of problems. Whereas in Europe, the problems are much deeper and much more fundamental. And therefore, you're seeing the different consequences of those problems being played out today in Europe.
Would you agree that the problems are much deeper and more complex for young people growing up in Europe?
I think they are, certainly, but at the same time, as much complex they may well be, there has to be an answer. We need to find the solution to the crisis that we are facing day in, day out. Professor Akbar is quite right in terms of the historical background of the communities in the UK and in the States. I mean, of course, we had this primary immigration way back after the First World War and Second World War, who are basically primarily factory workers, and then they haven't moved on, whereas the affluent community in the US has managed to concentrate much more on entrepreneurship and their professional life. But I think this situation is also changing in the UK. The recent report produced by the Muslim Council of Britain, the Muslim in numbers, clearly showed that in terms of education achievement, in terms of those who did not have professional qualification 10 years ago, and you compare now, situation is reduced tremendously. So there has been a huge improvement in the socio-economic profile of the Muslim community. Well, but we still have fair bit of time to go through as well.
Lots of work to be done. Thank you very much, Sir Iqbal Sakrani and Professor Ahmed, for joining us.